The rain fell in a ceaseless rhythm, tapping against the window panes of my small, dimly lit apartment. It was a sound that usually brought me comfort, a reminder of cozy nights spent wrapped in a blanket with a good book. But tonight, as I sat alone at my desk, grading papers, the rain seemed to carry an eerie weight, a foreboding that clung to the air. I was a teacher, devoted to my students and my craft, and my days were filled with the mundane tasks of educating young minds. But lately, something had changed. A chill had settled within the walls of the school, one that I couldn't shake no matter how tightly I pulled my sweater around me. Whispers circulated among the staff, tales of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena that had plagued the old building for weeks. I had dismissed them as mere superstitions, the products of overactive imaginations, until that day. It was a Tuesday afternoon when it happened. The students had left for the day, their laughter and footsteps fading into the distance. I lingered in my classroom, tidying up the desks and straightening the materials for the next day. As I reached for a fallen pencil beneath a desk, I heard it, a soft, haunting melody drifting through the air. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze, my gaze sweeping the room. There, at the front of the class, sat the antique piano that had been a fixture in the room for decades. Its keys moved with a ghostly grace, producing a tune that was achingly beautiful and undeniably chilling. I stepped closer, my breath catching in my throat as I realized there was no one at the piano, no one playing those haunting notes. Trembling, I reached out to touch the keys, but as my fingers brushed against them, the music abruptly stopped. The room fell into an eerie silence, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. I backed away from the piano, my heart racing, and fled the classroom, my footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. In the days that followed, the strange occurrences escalated. Shadows danced along the edges of my vision, vanishing when I turned to look at them. I would hear faint whispers in the wind, words I couldn't quite decipher, but that left a shiver down my spine. And then, there were the nightmares, vivid, unsettling dreams that left me waking in a cold sweat. I confided in my colleagues, seeking solace in their company and hoping that they could offer a rational explanation. But they too had experienced the inexplicable flickering lights, objects moving on their own, and the sensation of being watched in empty rooms. The fear that had once been confined to my own heart had now infected the entire staff. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the school was cast in shadows, I found myself drawn back to my classroom. The piano stood there, an ominous presence in the dim light. With a shaky breath, I approached it once more, determined to confront whatever force was responsible for these disturbances. As I stood before the piano, I felt a strange energy in the air, like a tangible electricity. The keys began to move once more, playing a haunting melody that resonated deep within me. Without thinking, I placed my trembling fingers on the keys, allowing the music to guide me. The notes flowed from me effortlessly, as if some unseen hand was guiding my movements. In that moment, the air around me grew cold, and a figure materialized before me. A woman, ethereal and beautiful, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and longing. She was dressed in old-fashioned attire, her hair cascading in dark waves down her shoulders. Her presence exuded a mixture of melancholy and anger, a story left untold. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible over the haunting melody. The figure's lips parted, and a voice, distant and sorrowful, reached my ears. "I was once a teacher here," she said, her voice carrying a weight of centuries. "But my dreams were cut short. My life ended before its time." As she spoke, images flashed before my eyes. A young woman in love, plans for a future, and then a tragic accident that had taken her life. She had been a teacher, like me, and her unfulfilled desires had bound her spirit to the place she had loved so dearly. Tears welled in my eyes as I realized the truth. The ghost before me was a teacher whose life had been cut short, her soul unable to find peace. I played the piano, letting the music weave a bridge between us, a connection that transcended time and death. With each note, I felt her emotions, her longing, her anger, her pain. And as the final chord resonated through the room, the figure began to fade, a bittersweet smile on her lips. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a gentle breeze. The room was silent once more, the presence that had haunted the school finally at rest. The chill that had lingered within the walls lifted, replaced by a sense of serenity. I knew that the spirit of the haunted teacher had found the closure she needed, and in doing so, had set both herself and the school free from the grip of the supernatural. As I walked out of the classroom that night, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of awe. The line between the living and the dead was thin, and in that encounter, I had glimpsed the depths of human emotions that could transcend even death itself. And so, I continued to teach, my classroom forever changed by the presence of a ghostly teacher who had taught me that even in the afterlife, the power of education and the bonds we form can endure.